Commissioner here in Cross River State. Yesterday, the REC took delivery of those PVCs, and as we speak, the PVCs are presently at the INEC Secretariat here in Calabar South, local government area of Cross River State, where they originally belonged to. And even though these cards have been returned, some cross-variants are of the opinion that INEC should be extremely careful when sorting out PVCs to ensure that each PVC belonging to each state gets to the state. It's back to you.
All right, thank you, Mani. We spoke to her earlier in the day, as we told you in the course of the program. We spoke to her earlier and she told us some of these things about the distribution of PVCs and how they've arrived in Cross River State. Mr. Naji, Mr. Yuan said something earlier when he talked about 11 states delaying salaries as at January. Now, he said, in his words, that is a game changer, a political game changer. Do you agree with that?
There's no doubt about that. There's no doubt about that. Even the entire postponement is a game changer. There are some people who will gain, some will lose. If a governor had managed to rake up 1 or 2 months' salaries, either by overdraft or by whatever means, and was hoping that before there would be so much query money that the elections would have been over, and the decisions perhaps taken, this is not going to be the case. And if you have been paying salaries and somehow you gassed out just for 1 or 2 months, a hungry man doesn't have so much room for reasoning. And the condition of the stomach affects the brain and the memory. Doesn't allow you to remember what happened yesterday, except to the extent that today you are going to have a good meal. If you had a good meal yesterday, and there is uncertainty about having it next, and you thought that you were entitled to it, the man who brings that meal at that moment is your oga in the Nigerian parlance. So if a government fails to pay salaries, he mentioned 3 states and then 11 now, and you don't know what will happen by the end of this February. And there's going to be, because the thing that made the child cry yesterday is still here. Yeah. It's still there. So it's a game changer. Only those who are able to sustain the tempo of, in this kind of situation, paying salaries and perhaps allowances, will reap the benefit by perhaps making even a campaign issue out of it.
Yeah, but you see, the thing is that what you have to understand, our revenues have come down by 55%. What you do, or what you face is a hole. The depth of the hole which you were in at February 14, by pushing it 6 weeks away, the hole is going to get deeper. So even if you were hiding, and people couldn't see it, by March 28th, everybody would have seen it. Yes. So it is when the tide goes out that we know those who are swimming naked, right? So that's what's going to happen.
I was going to bring that up as with the preparations and the economic state, the impact on the financial markets. Would that in any way? Yes, it's a negative impact, so to speak.
But how would it affect?
How would it affect the Nigerian out there?
Okay, see, the thing is that in certain parts of the country, at least 1 in 4 Nigerians have a trading link. This country has what we call the marginal propensity to import of 0.63. That means 63 kobo in every naira you spend has an import content. When the exchange rate moves 15 or 20% against you, everything becomes, as a minimum, 20% more expensive. A man who was in your favor before, when everything, oil prices increased by 20%, is more likely either not to vote or to go from enthusiastic to neutral, or in some cases from enthusiastic to negative. So the longer you drag out this election, except the economic circumstances change dramatically, which will not happen, you might find that the number of Nigerians that may not go to the polls, right, will increase, or the number of Nigerians who are angry will increase, the number of Nigerians who are anxious will increase, and those who are alarmed may also increase.
All right, we have our correspondent Joy Odinya. We spoke to her earlier in the day, and she reports from Anambra State. Hello, Joy.
The postponement of the election by the Independent National Electoral Commission automatically calmed down the already frenzied tempo of the electioneering campaign in Anambra State. Presently, some of the candidates are out of the country, maybe to get some rest before coming back to continue with their campaign. But the electorate are very eager to get their permanent voter cards. It has become a mantra for the state governor, Willie Obiano, in some of his outings recently, to tell people to go out and collect their voter cards so that they will be able to vote during the election. Several complaints have trailed the collection exercise, ranging from the cumbersome process to the undue delays and endless queues that amount to nothing at the end of the day. But one thing is very clear: the enthusiasm of the voters is not in any way dampened. They still persist in collecting their PVCs so that they will be able to vote on the election day. According to the resident electoral commissioner in a stakeholders meeting he held recently, he revealed that INEC in the state has distributed 74% of the permanent voter cards, which is to say that up to out of 1.763 million PVCs collected for the state, he has distributed up to 1.289 million PVCs. He also revealed that those who registered between 2013 and 2014 during the continuous voter registration exercise should also go out to collect their voter cards, because that consignment has been received by the INEC in the state. That is it for now from Anambra State.
Thank you, Joy. We spoke to her earlier in the day as well. Before we join Mary for the talkback, let's get one talkback here. Taufik Ghani says, eventually INEC Lagos confessed sacking 2 staff for depriving non-indigenous PVC, and he asked, are they being prosecuted? INEC should update. I hope Mr. Edo is listening. Please update us. Is INEC prosecuting them? Let's go now and join Mary Alale Yusuf for talkback. Mary.
Thank you, Nyota. On Talkback this week, we are looking at how effective the signing of peace accords can be for the conduct of the 2015 general elections. As parties in different states pledge to strive for peaceful elections, the question for you is, do you think the signing of the peace accord by political parties will ensure violence-free elections? Our options are yes, no, and indifferent. As usual, just go to channelstv.com, pick your choice and click vote. The thinking out there is that the ideals of top politicians as they sign these agreements should trickle down to their supporters, and that peace cannot work in a void. Here are some reactions we got for you.
That used to go and fight. It is their followers, their boys that used to fight. So if they can sit down and tell their boys, we don't need fights, we don't need violence, this is what we need. Talk to the masses, educate the masses on how to vote, then it will work.
Peace accord will only work if all the arms of government, if all the security agents or agencies bring in justice, equity. When there is injustice, there will be no peace.
The one of Okereka, apart from the politics, negative things always happen there. Like, for example, time of militants.
I'm not sure that our agreement is working, because there's a lot of violence, which you yourself, you know, there's a problem here and there. So this election, I don't know exactly what is going to happen for this particular election, because there's fear.
Well, it looks like the nation's political leaders have some work to do. And that's all on Talkback tonight. Back to you, Nyota.
Thank you, Mary. Do remember to go to our website to join with the poll question, are the peace accords working? Let's come back to the studio as we begin to wind down. Mr. Riwani, given the current challenges facing the nation's economy, if you were to advise whoever wins the election, mark the word, whoever wins the election, what would you be telling them?
First of all...
sorry, before you go there, you were going to say something about the consequences of another postponement on the international market.
First and foremost, the international markets will not forgive Nigeria for any other postponement. You can't afford it. Even if you are not prepared, bad news is better than no news. So you have to have this election. If you don't, and then there's a boycott and there's a deadlock, what will happen is that Nigeria will face sanctions from the international community, which includes a no-fly zone, flights will be cancelled, access will be frozen, and all of that. That is totally unacceptable to a country like Nigeria. So I'm confident that the powers that be will not allow for another postponement because the consequences are beyond our imagination. Secondly, whoever wins it, the economy is not about elections. Whoever wins this election has his work cut out for him. We are in a deep hole, and we have to get out of it. The hole did not start because of this administration. The hole, we have been going into this hole for over 20 years. We did nothing about it, and now what we did, we squandered opportunities, and now we have to dig our way out of it. So whoever wins this election has a big job in his hand, because expectations are high, the situation is bad, right? So, but the good news is that we've adjusted the currency value now. We are going to see a recovery. The Naira is going to recover gradually. So even by the time of the election, you would have seen some recovery. The stock market would have recovered somewhat. So once you get to the bottom, you begin to see some recovery. But at this point in time, you know, it just looks a little bit concerning for anybody. But we will have some recovery, but not enough to get us to where we expect to be. So, and secondly, there will be a crisis of false expectations. Expectations are very high. Situation is very bad. The capacity to manage crisis and the institutions for conflict resolution are very weak in Nigeria. So it's a very difficult situation we are in. Okay,
Mr. Naji, weak, horrible situation according to Mr. Iwani. Political, the electorate rather, they are being slow going to pick up their permanent voters card. Some have even said, forget this election, I'm not voting. What would you have to say to them as we wind down?
Well, I think the job is more on the side of INEC. They have to do more voter education. And many voters have been angling to collect their voter's card. But you have read that many of the experiences of people. So the advice I will give is for those who have not made effort to go and look for their cards, they should do so, because it's important that you have it. Whether you are voting or not, it's your entitlement. And INEC should make it possible for everybody to have access to that card. Let's not get bemused by statistics. Let's get real. Let's get real. One single Nigerian who failed to get his or her voter's card because of logistical problem. I've had casuistic arguments that in any election you don't have 100%. Let those people who have interest to vote have the card to go and vote. Absolutely. Forget about those who may have even collected and have decided not to vote. But let everybody have the enfranchisement to vote.
Thank you very much, Ms. Chima Nnaji, a legal practitioner and political analyst. Thank you for speaking with us. Mr. Bismarck Rwani, MD, CEO of Financial Derivatives. Thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you.
And for you, for letting us be a part of your evening. Thank you for letting us join you at home. Until we bring you another edition, same time on Monday. Good night.